Hello, hello. Welcome to the Lorethrough. Today we are handling episode 79, and let's get right to it. Last time we stopped off here on the Altus Plateau, right before the Stone Sword monuments. So let's see what they have to tell us. The first defense of Leyndell, a sovereign alliance rots from within. Traces yet remain of a bloody conspiracy. A little vague. Upon first reaching this, you may not know what it's talking about, but it seems to be the first defense of Leyndell during the Shattering, would be my guess. Where else would there be an alliance? It seems that the city of Leyndell doesn't have many alliances in a proper sort of term. It seems that they like to absorb other nations or groups for the most part, with the only exception that I can tell being Rea Lucaria and the Carians for a time, because of the wedding and marriage between the political marriage between Radagon and Rennala. So this must be referring to the Shattering and how the capital was assaulted after the conspiracy of Ronnie, the Knight of Black Knives, using a piece of the Rune of Death to slay Godwyn, who was first of the demigods to die. So my bet is that the Sovereign Alliance rots from within is referencing the fracturing of Radon, Godric, and Miquella's forces, Melania's forces. They all seem to have their own different contingents of soldiers that are variants of each other. They must have had some sort of alliance after the Shattering, because the Shattering was really what seemed to kick everything off and remove the authority in the land. It seemed that Queen Marika disappeared, and nobody knew who was supposed to be in charge. We know that there is Morgott, the Veiled Monarch of Leyndell. We don't know how he fits in all this, but or even what he's like in any capacity. We haven't had any hint of him at this point in the game. But something regarding the Shattering and the battles they had, given the opening cinematic where you see them dropping those big old bolts of poison into the crowds of dudes, it looks like trolls and Godric soldiers to me from the back, but who knows? They could be Radon's men, they could be someone else's men, who knows? Okay, so we are going to work our way over yonder. We have a little ways to go to get down this hill. This cliff over here, I mean. And here we have a church building. Another one. And we are going to select a weapon for a little exchange that is coming up here. So here we find Yura, and he is not in ship shape. We find a sacred tear. There's blood roses here. There is a statue to Queen Marika, but there's no site of grace, unlike many of the other churches we have visited in the lands between. But let's see what Yura has to say for us.
Eleonora, it seems I am no match for you, but I've learned a thing or two myself. You see, I've sliced the finger off. Please. Please. Eleonora, yield to the cesspool no longer. Do not stain the immaculacy of your sword, your flesh, your fire.
So it seems he has some sort of adoration for Eleonora, and he wished to rescue her from herself. He says he sliced her finger, perhaps the finger that she uses to invade people. But then again, she invades us right here. So perhaps not. Oh, there's a doggo. Gotta watch out for that. Ooh, Grail's Roar. That's a rough one. But it seems that she has a dragon-like outfit. She has these twin blades that are curved, kind of like two katanas. Ooh. I'm trying to get a parry off, but I've never been very good at parrying twin blades. I'm toying with her probably too much. There we go. But yeah, she's wearing this outfit that looks like it's very much inspired by the dragons. And the alabaster curved sword does well. We find the purifying crystal tear and her pole blade. So a pretty good place to visit. You get a crystal tear and 2 weapons. And one of the weapons already has an Ash of War on it we can pull off. It has the symbol, as you can see, Piercing Fang. Katana with ferociously long blade. Signature weapon of Yura. Hunter of bloody fingers, reminiscent of a reinforced spear. Its imposing length can be put to good use with powerful thrusting attacks. Eleanor's pole blade. Twinned Naginata forged in the land of reeds. Chosen weapon of Eleanora, Violet bloody finger. Her mastery of the sword was such that her onslaught was likened to a whirlwind, but now her legacy is stained by accursed blood. Let's see. Piercing Fang, skill used by Euro bloody finger hunter, starting with the blade held horizontally, make a powerful thrust that cannot be blocked. So an anti-shield move, kind of like thrusting, the impaling thrust, Ash of War. And then unique skill, Bloodblade Dance. Leap at foe to perform a flurry of tornado-like attacks. Follow up with an additional input to perform an attack that ends in an evasive maneuver. So there we go. And then we also found a crystal tear. Interesting. We don't get crystal tears very often from human-sized enemies. Only Erd Tree avatars, ulcerated tree spirits, or found in bowls in the world. I believe, yeah. So it can be mixed in a Flask of Wonders, Physic of course. The resulting concoction purifies the curse from Moog, Lord of Blood's terrifying Rite of Blood. So it seems that Moog, Lord of Blood, has a terrifying Rite of Blood, and if we have that in our mix-in, we will be protected from it. Interesting to note, for sure. That's something that is very easily forgotten, I feel, from when you get it, from when it's useful. Okay, so now we need to go down into this pit. Oh, no, we didn't need to go down in the pit. That's on me. That is completely on me. I meant to go across the gully. Well, we will simply ride fast then. I got ahead of myself. I saw the silly symbol on the map and assumed that was the next point when I have them numbered. Figures. Well, we'll go quickly. Maybe we can use this time to talk about what has happened. Eleonora and Yura. An interesting set of characters. We've already talked about Yura a little bit. He seems like a knight in sour armor sort of archetype. That he's grumbling, he's trying to get you to not be an idiot. He warns you of dangers continually, and he doesn't stop warning you of dangers. And then when the danger comes, he tries to bail you out. He seems a little old and tired. He doesn't seem particularly proficient a fighter anymore. He might have been at one point in time, but his damage, as far as we see in game, is kind of lackluster. Feel bad for him. And then we see Eleonora, who seems to be a decent fighter. She's not too tough of a fight. Yura definitely hyped her up. Maybe compared to him, she is quite the challenge. But she seems to be a previously noble knight who has then decided to surround herself with the wrong sort of people. Specifically those who invade other Tarnished. And she has, well, for lack of a better term, tarnished her reputation with accursed blood. And she seems to be holding an crystal tear to protect her from Moog, Lord of Blood. Luminary Moog. We've heard his name before referenced by Vare, so it seems that they are allies of a sort. Okay. I think we are good to go back across the bridge. We have already collected the blood-flavored ashvor from a pond to the south. And now we can safely traverse the ravine. So I believe we can hop down over here and be just fine. So we will do exactly that. Where is that other wind tunnel? There it is. Spirit Spring. That's the term I was looking for. Spirit Spring. That was a pitiful jump, Torrent. You should feel awful. Okay. So we get down here. We have some trolls. They have spikes in them like they have recently liberated themselves. Which is quite odd. And there's fellows all about digging. As if they had been maybe a part of the caravan and now they're looking for something worth finding. Though it doesn't seem like there's a whole lot, just rocks. Ouch. We'll just give him a couple slaps. Because that'll be faster than worrying about critical hits. Okay. So we have this mine up here. I'm trying to think, is there anything notable in the environment? Nothing just yet. But this is called the Old Altus Tunnel. So let's get inside and make some progress. This is a good tunnel to visit also relatively early when you get to the Altus Plateau, simply because of, well, it's a mine. You get upgrade materials here. The game's been trying to teach you something. So you might as well make use of it. It does take 2 stone sword keys, so you can't rush it. But as soon as you can come here, it's a good idea. Probably after you've gone to the sealed tunnel at least and gotten all them golden seeds. I say it's a good thing to rush. As if you're just going through the game lackadaisically. Just wanting to grab what you will for your build. As opposed to being like me or several other wasteful people who just obliterate their time by just grabbing every single thing that's in the world around them. But hey, we have enough, or we have a sacred tier to upgrade our flask, so let's do that. And let's continue with the dungeon. So now I have placed good old Piercing Fang on our heavy iron greatsword, so we can take a look-see at that. Oh dear. A local vagrant. There we go. Lots of explosive barrels about, so be careful with your fire weapons. If you have any, even a fire melee weapon can set them off. Okay. So yeah, level 5 Smith and Stone just there on the wall. And plenty of cracked tiers for your magic throwing daggers. But I wanted to show off Piercing Fang. It's a lot like Impaling Thrust, but it's got significantly more range. Take out the dogs quickly. Get the Bulk Drake Talisman. And it ignores his shield entirely. It doesn't blink in the least bit. But it's a lot slower than Impaling Thrust, but it goes farther, and I believe it hits harder as well. So one seems to be the upgraded version of the other in some respects. I don't think this outclasses Impaling Thrust by any means. It seems that they're sidesteps from each other. Impaling Thrust really shines on things like the Claymore, where you got the heavy lunging attack, and then you can alternate between that and Impaling Thrust. You can be very oppressive, even in PvP with those two. Find golden runes. So now we could either take the ladder down, or we could hop on this building here. Hopefully, okay, good. I was making sure we didn't need to hop on the other one. But it seems that there's a knight here. Let's mess with him a little bit. And by mess with him, I mean murder him in a horrible fire explosion. I wonder if this will knock him off. Perhaps not. Oh, there it is. I was curious. But it does have range. It does eat a good chunk of mana, so it's not the cheapest Ash of War. But there's some people who get the timing down just so they can hit you and then catch you at the end of their roll with Piercing Fang. I can't remember if it's Piercing Fang or Impaling Thrust, but one of the two combos really well after... I think it's a one-handed heavy from a greatsword. Because I think it's this overhead move. I'm trying to remember how it worked, but it worked in such a way where it was like you'd have a dagger in your offhand and the greatsword in your main hand. You'd hit them with a heavy, then a light from your dagger, and then you'd follow them with Piercing Fang. And I think it would hit them at the end of their roll. I think that was the idea. But the Stone Man doesn't care much for it. He doesn't take much damage at all. He's a very stalwart fellow. I also wanted to show off the Omen Cleaver a little. I put Stormcolor on it because I talked about that when we got it, that I liked putting Stormcolor on this thing. Just because it's big, it hits heavy, and has a status, so... And I've decided to put Frost on it. Probably not the best infusion for it, honestly. Probably keeping it physical and then enchanting it for combat probably would be a better choice, but since it hits so many times and has the chance to hold people in place, not nearly as well as the Stormhawk axe that Nefelia Lu uses. Is that it? I think that might be it for our little dungeon here. Yeah, okay. So we'll drink that. And I have yet to decide on a new summon. What was the last one I used? I don't think I ever used the Twin Sage. I think we used the regular sorcerer. So let's see how the Twin Sage works out. I might be sorely disappointed. He does take a big chunk of mana. Nope. He shoots bigger spells. They're actually not doing as much damage as the other guys. The other guy shot the... Oh. See that? This troll just cast fire. And he roared to enchant his attack, and he has the red particle effect. So we've heard about fire giants, and we have reason to believe that the trolls and the fire giants are related in some capacity. Though we don't know exactly how. Oh, and I killed him. This stone digger troll is made of stone, of course. You can see that. We get his great club. And we found the troll's hammer earlier. Okay, I thought so. Yet, he could cast fire. So, there's some link between them and the fire giants, proven by that fellow casting his fire. And he's surrounded by barrels, so I wonder if he's meant to cast a fire sorcery and either mess up the player or himself. Seems like a volatile place to choose to do that. But I digress. So we're going to go outside, and we're going to take a look at those two items we just found. Well, technically we also found the Bolt Drake Talisman, but I don't think its description is any different from anything we've found thus far. Yeah, ancient dragons who ruled in the prehistoric era before the Erd Tree would protect their lord as a wall of living rock, and so it is that the shape of the dragon has become symbolic of all manner of protections. So, nothing new there, but hey, reminders aren't a bad idea. Here we have the Troll's Hammer, mining tool of stone digger trolls used to crack bedrock. Trolls are descended from giants, and these were supposedly once used as ceremonial smithing tools. In the distant past, smithing was considered divine. So, that's a neat little tidbit. So we have our connecting through line between trolls and giants. It is a strength weapon primarily with a modest faith requirement, and I believe, even though I don't know if it's somber or standard weapon. You can't put an Ash of War on it, so it could be either, really. But even though you can't put a new Ash of War on it, and even though it has faith scaling, you can still buff it. You'd probably be better off buffing it with fire, because it already has some fire damage on it, which is an interesting little tidbit there. But you can buff it with whatever you want. I could buff it with Scholar's Armament. As you can see, the icon is lit up. And it is a colossal weapon, so it has the big chunky attack pattern, and it's relatively short for a colossal weapon. So, use at your discretion. And then we find the Great Club. Not the large club, the Great Club. There's always one of each in these games, it feels like. At least of the Souls ones, with the exception being Bloodborne. Alright, an enormous club of hardwood. Wildly hammering foes with this striking weapon requires no dexterity, only brute force. While it may seem sacrilegious, this weapon is said to be a withered branch of the Erd tree. Imbued with holy power, this weapon will never snap. And sure enough, it has its own ability called Golden Land. So it is a strength weapon. I'm tempted to upgrade it just because that would be funny to start using this as my anti-skeleton weapon. But even though it does great damage to the skeletons, I don't think it would confirm the kill on the first attempt. However, it does have its own unique ability where you plunge into the ground like Earthshaker, you can do a follow-up swing, and it shoots a bunch of projectiles. It shot them randomly all over the place, but if you're locked onto somebody, it'll specifically shoot at them. They're not homing or anything, but they move fairly fast, so it can be useful as a harass or a punish. But we're going to make our way over here, and I feel like using the Omen Killer Cleaver just a bit more. So, we're going to work our way up here, and this is a crevice we're going to have to come back to at a later point, when we're farther in the quest line associated with Volcano Manor. Don't worry, I won't forget. Normally I have it already lined up, but I want to show off all the interactions with certain NPCs, and the Volcano Manor quest line kind of makes you start killing off, you know, people who don't seem all that bad. Makes you the bad guy. So here we have this big old keep, the Shaded Castle. It is surrounded by poison, it has flowers, it's got trees growing out of it in weird places, it looks like. Honestly, it kind of looks like it's sinking, because it's not the most impressive wall to have built. And I assume that's what they're going for, is a sort of sinking effect. We got lots of little flowers. I don't know if they have... Yeah, they have rot specifically, it looks like. Which is interesting, because the pool around them, I think, is just regular poison. But when we work our way around the corner here, we find some rocks, some ruins, and there's a fellow standing over there. I wonder if I can take a look at him. So if we look at him, we see a fellow out there. He's got a rapier and a glowing hand. He's got a silver mask, white hair, could be a wig. And though it's hard to see from here, it looks like he's wearing a sort of noble's robe. Kind of like we've seen on Raya, Lady Tanith, Kenneth Height. This one is blue, and he's got a mantle around him. But otherwise, it looks very similar. And when we lock onto him, it's Male Marias Shaded Castle Castellian. So don't know why he's hanging out here, but he is angry for some reason. And spinning kind of throws him off. He has Impaling Thrust on that. That might be the default one. But he has a Rot Rapier. And he isn't the most aggressive. In fact, of most AIs, it seems that he has his aggression turned way down. He can spew poison. He's got Impaling Thrust, as we've demonstrated. But, I don't know. He seems a little lethargic as far as invaders go. Now, he could just be pacing himself, waiting for, you know, an opening of some kind. But he doesn't prove too much of a fight. His biggest thing is that if he gets you with the Rapier, Rot can be mean. Though at this point of the game, you've probably already dealt with Kaled. Probably. So let's take a look at what he had on him. Antspur Rapier, primarily a dex weapon, I believe. Though you can use it with just about everything, if I recall. And it comes with Scarlet Rot build-up, so for those skeevy status builds, here is a pick for you. Now, Scarlet Rot doesn't scale with any stats necessarily, but if you learn how to make the greases, you could do a strength or a dex build, so get good damage, and then you can just slather a little extra Rot on there, and you'll get more than the 55 that comes with it. Or you could put Poisonous Mist on there, and be able to do Poison and Rot. You could put Freezing Mist on there if you wanted to do Frost and Rot. There's some people who have all three on there, crazies. Or, yeah, I think you can get up to 3 on 1. Yeah, so if you were to get not pestilent mist, the poison mist Ash of War, and slap it on there, but make it a blood infusion. And then you, of course, buff it with that Ash of War. It would do 3 kinds of status. It wouldn't do a whole lot, except for of one of them. And here's the golem. Seems he's lost track of us, which I'm fine with. Let's look at the outfit that we got from Marias. So we got the Marias mask. Mask in the image of a white-haired young noble, customarily worn by the head of House Marias. So he wasn't just a Castellan, but he was he's the head of House Marias. Now I'm trying to remember what a Castellan is exactly in terms of a title. I should probably just look it up while I'm thinking about it. Let's do exactly that. Alright, define Castellan. We will learn together, dear viewer. We will learn together. The keeper or governor of a castle. So he's not just the keeper or governor of the castle, he's the head of the royal house, or of the likely noble house Marias. It increases arcane by 1 whole point. Wowza. Has 4 boys. Not the worst, pretty lightweight. The Marias family has a dual history spanning generations, serving as both executioners and castellans of the Shaded Castle. This mask bears the likeness of the first of their line. So kind of weird that those who are in charge of the castle wear, like, there's something great-grandfather's face. We don't know who that is. It could be Marias. It could be that they took it as their last name after his first name. Who knows? And let's look at the chess piece. Alright, Marias robe with a black mantle across the shoulders, customarily worn by the head of House Marias. The sons of House Marias are all sickly born. Little wonder that Male Marias, I think that's how that's said, would be so beguiled by the beautiful and fierce goddess who was born into rot. Well, if that doesn't point fingers at Melania, I don't know what does. So it seems interesting that his poison sinking castle and his Anspur repair of rot is also inspired by the chief character associated with rot in this game. And her war crimes. Okay, let's knock down this giant. Wow, I hit that thing so many times. Maybe Stormcaller doesn't do the most poise damage, at least to monsters. Alright, let's get over there and give him a good old wallop. Take him down a notch. Don't have a whole lot of time left. Okay, but it does give you flasks. I think he's there mostly to be a huge irritant while you're fighting Marias. Which makes sense. I mean, dealing with a lethargic, tarnished-shaped enemy who has rot and then the golem at the same time, that's very weird. So this is a unique area that we're in that we see statues all over the place. And look, here's a statue of what looks like Queen Marika. And I say that because this looks like the pose she was in when she had that spear that we saw when we were up in the more central, or south central part of the Altus Plateau. So it seems that there's different poses of presumably her, but there's also statues it looks like from other cultures perhaps, or cultures we could not so clearly identify, like this little lady with the robe. Trying to see if there's any identifying features on her skirt there. I don't see anything in particular. Still, whole heaps of statues. There's the statue of the lady that, like we saw in the Chapel of Anticipation, just pointing in the direction for you to go. So I don't know if they stuck all these statues here just to be creepy or foreboding, or what's the purpose. But it seems some of them, at least, are Queen Marika. At least the ones that are like this one in front of me, where they have the arms out as if they could be holding a spear. As well as the little figure. So I'm not sure what why they have all these statues, but it's odd. Especially that they're out here in this field and that they have a big old golem. Or why Male Marias was out here to begin with. Very odd. Okay. We don't have a whole lot of time, but I did want to show off 2 things real quick. So if you come all the way over here to the western side of the castle, there is this cliff face that you can get up. Even in multiplayer, you can go up the back here. And as soon as you get in, it'll kick you off your mount, right? If you are playing with friends, you don't have that to begin with. Body on the ground. Nothing too noteworthy. Is there anything to grab over here while I'm thinking about it? There's bodies. You seem upset. There's a lootable. Oh, the flower's attacking when we were all the way over there. Strange. Okay. And I think we have an item to grab over here. So we will do that. And then we will escape. Because that's what we do. We escape. Okay, neutralizing boluses. If I jump carefully, you can get on the box. And then out. And then if you proceed to the southern edge, wrapping towards the east of this poisoned swamp, there are, of course, slugs and flowers of death and all sorts. Even a worthless item you could grab if you feel so inclined, just a smidge of money. But there is this protrusion of rock by this wall in particular, by this poison grease marked by this poison bloom, and another entry point into the castle. And this is the better entry point, I think, by a mile, because it's close to a site of grace. So we'll grab that grace. Oh yeah, the sidearm I'm using, the Serpent God's Cold Curved Sword, heals you a little bit on kill. Makes it a good backpack, good sidearm. And honestly, having a curved sword and a halberd is not a bad combo. You can also use a straight sword or rapier. Rapier's the most popular by a mile. But not a bad sidearm. And it's strength scaling, so. And a little short for a curved sword, but I think the heal on enemy death is worthwhile, so. Well, we will take a sit down here, and we will cut the episode. But let's look at the name of this place. So we are Shaded Castle Ramparts. Okay, so we will go over the Shaded Castle next time, and maybe after that we can continue along this highway. But I'm excited for the Shaded Castle. There's a good little bit of lore here. I like it. It's one of my favorite places. I wish I got to invade here more, honestly. I like the area. The enemies aren't too overwhelming, but there's enough to give you cover as an invader. So it feels more fair, honestly, than a lot of other places. The poison kind of narrows people down specific channels. I don't know. I like it. No real reason. I just do. Well, tune in next time for episode 80. Yeah, I think this is 79. So yeah, next time is 80. Wow, the big 80. That's crazy. I'm going to need to make more thumbnails. That's besides the point. Thank you for joining me today, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.